All right, all right. Welcome back to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Ragan. And we got another just recorded segment this week because of scheduling stuff between Zach and I. Also, it's just the dead part of the summer. Not all that much to talk about at the moment, so might as well kind of keep it a little more short and sweet this time of year. So, what's up, Zach? How we doing, man?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Just trying to enjoy the middle part of summer here. Just got back from a fun vacation, so it's nice to see that Tennessee didn't do anything too crazy while I was out of town.
Thank goodness Lucas Panzica came on here last week, and your steady did a good job. We had a good convo. We can kind of continue it here. I think people probably clicked on this to hear about Joey Aguilar versus Nico Iamaleava, and we kind of want to get into just the offense a little bit too, and we'll do that in just a minute. First, just a couple of odds and ends. I think we would be remiss if we did a show talking Tennessee sports right now and we didn't mention the fact that Tony Vitello is just cleaning up on the recruiting trail right now. It's absolutely ridiculous. He gets Evan Blanco, left hand pitcher out of Virginia, probably a starter level guy after he got the kid from Rutgers last week that Lucas Panzica and I talked about. Plus, he's already stacked up Henry Ford, who on some lists is the number one transfer in America, also out of Virginia, like Evan Blanco. And he's just this guy has taken what already in the last few years has been incredible transfer recruiting, and he's just knocking it up yet another not honestly not just another notch, another 10 notches. Like he really is just going crazy. But I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, Zach. Just knew we had to mention it.
Nah, just Tony Vitello is a dog as a coach, right? I mean, he's won a national championship. You would think it might be easy to not really take it easy, but just put it on cruise. Just kind of assume that it might happen again. But it feels like it's made him even more aggressive when it comes to going after players. I mean, really, and as we get into football here, I don't think it's going to be part of the conversation with football today, but it's kind of something you wish you'd see from Josh Heupel. This aggressiveness in the transfer portal. I mean, it's really what it takes to win championships is talented players, and Vitello knows that as well as anyone. And they came up short this year, and he's not like coming up short this year provided them with a huge opportunity to go out and recruit these guys and convince them to come to Tennessee, and he's nailing it. So whatever happens next season, we'll see. It's a long way away, right? We'll see how the roster actually looks when we get to next spring. Hopefully, the MLB draft doesn't hurt Tennessee too much here in the next week. I think it's next Sunday and Monday, and the roster will kind of be finalized after that. But whatever happens next season, you can't fault Tony Vitello for the roster that will be out there because he's putting absolutely the best roster possible together to give this team a real chance to get to Omaha again next season.
He really is. It's been a weird off season because of all of the transfers that went out. I mean, what is it now? 20 something plus transfers that left 20 pitchers, just pitchers. So it's, however many beyond that when you include position players too. But um, it just shows to me, like, it shows how much of a true psycho he is because he did some postseason interviews and just said, I was not happy with this team. They didn't have the killer edge that we needed. They didn't have that thing that it takes to win a championship. He was very matter of fact about it. I think he said that stuff while also saying, that he really loved the guys on this team. Obviously, he's such a player's coach, but he just went, they just couldn't get it done. So I'm literally going to replace them all. So I mean, it's what he's doing. It's crazy. But we'll see what happens there. If he can keep raking them in, there's more guys on the horizon. We'll see if he can lock down, and we'll talk about that when it happens. But let's get to football now, Zach, because it's a time where I think it's become such the dead part of summer where I'm finally starting to feel that switch where the switch is this: baseball's over, at least college baseball. it's so dead with nothing but MLB baseball, and the deadness makes me go, oh man, I need it to be football season already. You just get to 7 o'clock on a Thursday and you're like, you know what I could be doing right now? Watching MAC football, because that would be pretty sweet. So I've started to feel those hankerings. Uh, and so let's do talk about it at least a little bit. The craziest story out of this entire thing, obviously, is Joey Aguilar, presumed starter for Tennessee. Obviously, we are making an assumption there. You got George McIntyre, you got Jake Merklinger. So there are other options there that could take over. But this kid, if he starts like I think a lot of people believe he will, it'll be one of the most interesting stories in college football. And then, of course, you're going to look across the nation out to Los Angeles and go, how is this kid stacking up against Nico Iamaleava, who he is replacing naturally? I mean, at first glance, if Joey ends up being the starter, how are you feeling about it, Zach?
I mean, I've said before, I like the kid's path to where he's gotten, right? Like nothing's been given to him. He's really had to battle to get to the SEC, and I know he kind of ended up at Tennessee in a weird, bizarre way. But even to get to the Big Ten at UCLA, he really had to battle. Coming up through a small college, then transferring to Appalachian State, then parlaying that into an opportunity on the West Coast at UCLA, again in the Big Ten, a power conference. Like there's, I don't know, thousands of high school quarterbacks, right? That take the field every Friday night across the nation, dreaming of playing football at a power conference, and only a handful of those guys actually know that they're going to play at one of those schools. The Faison Brandons, the George McIntyres, the Nikos, the guys like that know by the time they're sophomores that, hey, I'm going to an SEC program or a Big Ten program. I can kind of go wherever I want. Like those are few and far between. The rest of these guys are battling for spots, and some guys have it, some guys don't. Like it takes a lot of moxie. It takes overcoming a ton of adversity. You hear a lot of no's. It's real easy to just give up in those situations. And Aguilar, I think the fact that he hasn't says a lot about his character and who he is. And I know that's stuff that you can't really quantify, and it doesn't really tell you anything about how he'll perform on the field on Saturdays. But if there's one thing about Nico that I think prevented him from reaching his ceiling at Tennessee, maybe he will at UCLA. He's got a lot of time left and development left as a quarterback. I don't know how his career will go, but feels like the one thing that prevented him from really reaching what we thought would be his potential in his second season at Tennessee was just his unwillingness to just let it go. He was timid at times. He was late on throws. It's like he was afraid to make a mistake. It's just like, I got to live up to being this guy. I can't throw an interception here. I got to make sure this is the right play. And I think guys like Aguilar, what they go through, they don't have that in their mindset at all. Like they just go get it. And that's something that in Josh Heupel's offense is a must. And they have preached it since the day they took over in 2021, when even Joey Hasley was just the quarterbacks coach back then, talked about, let it rip, talking about Hendon Hooker being too businesslike when he first came to Tennessee and really having to unlock that kind of killer mentality in him, even for him to become what he was in 2020, in 21 and 22 at Tennessee. Nico lacked that. Maybe Nico would have got there this year. We'll never know. I think Aguilar, I think he is that kind of guy. So I think that's something that will play really well in this offense. And, if he has the physical abilities, I don't think there's any reason to doubt that he can be a productive quarterback in the system.
Yeah, I agree. The gunslinger mentality that you're getting at there is probably the thing that I'm the most excited to see, because in the second year with Hendon Hooker, where he got comfortable and he was just like, let's let it go. That was the most special this offense has been. And to even just get a hint of that back, because it was so stunted last year, where you could tell Nico was just kind of, where should I go with the football? And had trouble with that decision-making piece, the processing piece. I'm very, very interested to see exactly how that goes. The thing that probably scares me is maybe the physical limitations. Does the kid have the actual ability? You can want to do a lot of things with the football. I want to be a great quarterback in the NFL, but I cannot be because I, am in the body that I'm in. So it's putting those two things together. I think the potential is there just because I think it's two different things. Could he be better than Nico was last year? I absolutely think so, because I don't think Nico was all that remarkable, frankly. You saw potential, but he didn't unlock it fully last year. And it could also be, is he going to be better than Nico is going to be this year at UCLA? I have no idea what he's working with at UCLA. I don't know who the players are around him. I would assume that it is a much lower caliber of player
It's a new
than
offensive
that.
coordinator too
Yep,
this
new
season, so
OC.
we really don't know
Yes.
what that's going to look like.
No, that there's really no indication there. They just kind of gifted him the job. He's going to be at Big Ten Media Days for them. I mean, they really just like, here you go, kid, keys to the kingdom. And I,
Which is not. I don't think that's good for Nico. Not to talk too
no,
much about Nico. We've talked enough about that over the past couple of months, but I mean, it's cliche, but competition really is the best thing a quarterback can ever have, especially in college. And that's the beautiful thing about what Tennessee has going on this summer. And you talked about it a little bit at the top, that we're assuming Aguilar wins the job. I think he's the favorite based on experience. I think that's really important. That's something that gets overlooked in the NIL era. We expect guys to just go out there and play and be like fully developed 2 years out of high school because they're getting paid a lot of money. It just isn't going to work that way. But so that competition aspect is really not present at a lot of programs these days. Alabama has it this year, but a lot of times schools just don't have that because they have to promise a guy the job pretty much to get the guy. I mean, that's what UCLA did with Nico, even though they probably didn't have to, just because Nico didn't have a lot of options. But that true competition doesn't really exist, and Tennessee has that, and they have it with a couple of really good players, with Mertlinger there battling and George McIntyre, who might be the most talented out of all of those three quarterbacks. I mean, this thing, we said we assume Aguilar wins it, but it could go any of those three ways. Like McIntyre could come out of this thing winning the job somehow, and it wouldn't be a total shock. I don't think that'll happen, but it wouldn't be a total shock. So I mean, you should get the best, the absolute best out of all three of these guys. Where with Nico, I mean, he doesn't have to go prove anything at UCLA. It's his job no matter what.
based off of pure talent, and I would say career ceiling, George McIntyre is probably your guy, right? I mean, he was a borderline 5-star coming in, lots and lots of potential. He really was the best performer out of the two at the spring game, but he's just so young. He's just so skinny. He just is wet behind the ears still, in a way where you're probably not going to be like, all right, go play SEC football. Here you go. And Joey Aguilar has years of college football in his arsenal, and it's not all SEC football, but it's football nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I could see, because I think just a real comparison, way more than Nico, I think a real comparison is Diego Pavia for him, because I think there are physical limitations, but potentially a dog mentality. Like, that's really what you see with Diego Pavia. Like, he is not chucking the ball way downfield and making spectacular throws and all these things. He just is willing that team to go places.
He's just trying to make the play no matter what.
Exactly.
Not really worried about the outcome of the game. Not really worried about the outcome of the play. He's just trying to go make it happen. And you kind of got to do that in the SEC.
And it worked for them, not against Tennessee. He kind of got crushed against Tennessee, but against Alabama and against Auburn and all of those games that they won last year, like, it can work. And the chips can fall into place when you have a kid who's just like, I will not let this team lose. And maybe he's that guy. I mean, it's a little bit more of a cynical take, but the best quarterback that Josh Heupel had in his time at Tennessee is a guy he didn't choose. in Hendon Hooker. He went with Joe Milton first. Joe Milton got injured, and then suddenly Hendon Hooker was really good, and they went, "Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess we got to play this guy."
And
So maybe it's a gift.
a guy in Hendon Hooker who was, unremarkable before he came to
Yep.
Tennessee. He played football at a higher level at Virginia Tech in the ACC, but the ACC is worlds below the SEC outside of a couple of schools. And Hooker, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Hooker threw interceptions at Virginia Tech at a similar rate that Aguilar did at Appalachian State, and then that cut down dramatically once he got to Tennessee. So I know that's been the one thing that people have talked about with Aguilar is the interceptions at Appalachian State, whatever it is. He threw one every 44 or every 35 attempts at App State. Hooker threw one every 44 attempts at Virginia Tech, and then that cut way down, a minuscule number at Tennessee. So the offense plays well to kind of cut that out. But I would ask you this, and it doesn't really feed into the, will Aguilar outperform Nico because at this point we really don't know what any of these quarterbacks truly look like in Tennessee's offense just because they haven't played in it. I mean, Merklinger has like 9 attempts in the offense, and we've seen them in the spring game, but we don't really know what they look like coached by Josh Heupel in an SEC game, so we can kind of just go off of what we think with mentality and potential and all that. But does the potential of a transfer after the season, because it's kind of like a quarterback puzzle that Heupel's going to have to play. Aguilar's one and done. We know that. And then you've got Merklinger, who's entering his second season. He was a highly rated 4-star guy. George McIntyre, being a true freshman coming in, and then Faison Brandon coming in next fall, who we all believe is the guy that maybe can really take you to a national championship. He's that good. Does that factor into this at all? Because odds are that one of those guys, Merklinger or McIntyre, is not going to be on this roster in 26, it feels like. Because there will be too many other opportunities and teams willing to pay them more than Tennessee's probably willing to pay one of them, whichever one's not the starter.
Well, and I think obviously the guy you got to be looking at there is Jake Merklinger. Like he's probably the guy that goes in that scenario, unless if Aguilar starts, he's injured. Merklinger comes in, he's a gunslinger. Who knows what could happen? But that's obviously where my mind goes first. Is like, well, it would be Merklinger, I think, probably, for being realistic about it.
You
Because
just wonder, like,
McIntyre,
if it's close, if it's real close between Merklinger and Aguilar, is that the coin toss there? Like you say, like, okay, we're gonna give it to Merck because maybe we can keep all
he could
three of
be a
these
sweeper
quarterbacks
guy.
on the roster. Yeah, through 26. I mean, it's just another piece of the puzzle that Heupel has to balance somehow.
Yeah, or is it a conscious decision that you see that George McIntyre has the skill, and you go, we're going to make a decision here that it's probably going to make Merklinger want to transfer, but it is what it is. Like that, conversations are had like that in college sports
for sure
across the board. So many of them happening in college baseball right now with the roster limits of
more than ever
coaches having to come and coaches just having to say we just don't have a spot for you. In some sense, it could be a little bit of a layoff of sorts. But seriously, behind closed doors, who knows how that whole thing is going? There's really no indication other than what we were able to see at spring ball. Your guess is as good as mine, frankly. But I will say, to give an answer to kind of the question that we're asking here, if it's Aguilar, I absolutely think he could be better than Nico was last year because honestly, I'm not sure that is that difficult of a task to do.
Yeah.
Your schedule outside of the road trips to Alabama and Florida, your schedule is favorable. So
there's a lot of things that also go into it out of Aguilar's control, kind of. Like, I think he's going to have better talent at wide receiver than Nico had last season.
Yep.
With maybe a bit more experience, but better talent, higher ceilings. And the offensive line, of course. How does that pan out? Is it better? We hope it's better. Good God, we hope it's better. And I think it has the potential to be better if they figure out the right combination. Because you have talent, you got 2 5-star tackles. That has to be good. But then you're losing Dylan Sampson, who, let's be honest, without Dylan Sampson, how's Nico viewed after last season? Because they're not a playoff team.
Great question.
And maybe some stuff down the field in the passing game isn't even there for Nico. So,
Yeah, that's I don't even want to think about it, but theoretically, if David Sanders lives up to the hype, your offensive line at its healthy state, if you don't have to dip down into your depth, theoretically
there is
your
none.
offensive
There's
line
none.
could be exactly. I mean, they're the depth or a complete lack thereof. At its healthiest, theoretically better than last year, but guys get injured on the offensive line constantly.
Yes, I mean we've seen it. There's no
So,
Dane Davis to bail you out anymore now.
right.
I know we. Let's be honest. I mean, we all love Dane Davis because of what he meant to Tennessee, and he's an in-state guy and stuck around and stepped up in some big moments. But we also got frustrated at times with plays that he just wasn't able to make because he's not a
Yep.
5-star guy going up against really talented guys. You don't even have him really to step in because Larry Johnson's not there. He went to Colorado. Like we said, there's no depth. So that all has to go right for Aguilar to even have a chance to outperform Nico. So there's just so much to this offense that it's not just on Aguilar. It's on complementary football, as Butch Jones would say. It's all got to go right for Aguilar to really have a chance to be the guy that we think he possibly can be in this offense.
It really does. And we're really not going to know until that Syracuse game. And even I'm not even sure that Syracuse game is going to be a great indication. You might not know till what is it, week 3 or 4 with Georgia.
And
Georgia's
kind
of
going
first
through
big game, but
Georgia's kind of
yeah. I mean,
it might be a good thing if Tennessee can get it right early. That might be your best chance to get them.
If you're fully healthy going into that Georgia game, they will presumably be pretty healthy also because it's early season. The door is as open as it's gonna probably be with Kirby Smart as their coach. Just judging from how the man recruits. So, might as well try to take advantage if you can.
If Aguilar beats Georgia in his third start or whatever it would be, you've got to drop that guy an extra $1 million in NIL money or something, because that would be, I mean, what a story that would be for college football. I mean, in general, like the whole sport, that would be, I don't know if it would get the love it deserves because it's Tennessee, but that would be incredible.
If it was November of this past season and Tennessee is, going on 10 wins, and you told me, here's how all of this plays out, and it ends with this kid that replaces Nico beating Georgia in week 3, I would literally go, that's too stupid. Like, you can't write that.
Yeah.
That's a silly storyline. No one will believe that. No one would think that actually happened. Stop there. I mean, that's storybook stuff. It really is. It's kind of like Hendon with in the 22 year and beating Alabama, where it's just like this kid, that nobody believed in, comes in, magic season, beats Alabama for the first time in forever. Yeah, it would be completely crazy. So, well, guess we'll see. Yeah. I don't know. Anything else for the folks at home, Zach?
Do you feel like you're rooting for Aguilar to win this job? Is that who you want to see come out on top?
I really do. Well, for one, he has the most experience out of anybody, and I think that counts for a lot. And then also, just the story would just be so cool. So cool. We'll give you a pass if you don't beat Georgia.
Yeah.
But if you can go on 8-9 win season, really put together a nice campaign, that's really special. It'd be a really just cool thing to have happen in the wake of all of that Nico nonsense. So
I will say,
I would love it.
With the Aguilar versus Nico stuff, everything aside, the way this all played out, Aguilar's it's a tougher. I think Aguilar's in the tougher situation. It's the tougher conference. It's the tougher schedule. It's SEC country, Los Angeles. Outside of like the actual sport of college football, you can fly under the radar in Los Angeles, right? Like Nico is going to be not even close to the front page news out there, no matter what happens. But there's no pressure on Joey Aguilar and Tennessee this fall. No one is. If they go God forbid, worst case scenario, they go 8-5 with a bowl win, or however that plays out. Nobody's going to be calling. Nobody with common sense going to be calling for Josh Heupel to be fired because it was such a crazy situation that everybody, except for maybe Joel Klatt, sided with Tennessee on. So there's zero pressure on Tennessee, on whoever wins this quarterback battle, and that is probably the best news that's come out of any of this for Tennessee, because I think we've seen that is absolutely when Tennessee is at their best, when there is no pressure, when they're not facing any sort of expectations. They can fly under the radar a bit, catch people by surprise like they did in 22. I think even last year being a playoff team with the offense not being so explosive, you might see them get back to a little bit of that where they can catch some teams off guard and, maybe catch some teams looking ahead to what they think is a tougher opponent on the schedule. So that sets up well for Aguilar.
I hope it happens. I just really, really hope it happens because it would be so cool. Just so incredibly cool if that played out. But we'll find out soon enough. Charlie Burris, Zach Ragan. That's another entry of the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. Thank you for listening. Hopefully next week we will be back with a full episode. Obviously, media days right around the corner. What is it?
Next week.
Right? It is next week. So
yeah,
I was thinking
14th,
week after next.
14th
Next week
17th
on the 14th. Yep. So we're going to talk about it all. We will. Yeah, that's it. All right. Thanks again for listening. And we will talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.